Hi, and welcome to episode 2 of the Thanks Again Film podcast. In this episode, we are going over the movie Avatar. I really like Avatar. I haven't seen the new one yet, but I've seen The Shape of Water, The Way of Water. There's something about Avatar it's it shows up and it's like a blockbuster movie, but it's really good sci-fi. You go to the movies and you expect, or you'd hope with adventure films that there's a couple of scenes with really cool special effects and whatnot. And the Avatar movies, it's a special effect throughout the entire thing. They say the same thing. People say the same thing about the Godzilla movies. You have to sit through the human stuff, and then there's maybe 5-10 minutes of Godzilla stomping around. But yeah, I'm covering Avatar. There's Avatar and the second movie, Avatar 2. They both have essays up on the channel. I get into stuff about it. There's stuff to go over with Avatar that I haven't heard anyone talk about. I haven't heard. Maybe it's a no duh. Maybe it's a no duh type of thing. But there's stuff going on that James Cameron put together that I bet he's just sitting back and waiting for people to enjoy. The second movie confused me a little bit. The second movie confused me because it felt like home movies. There's an aspect to it that lets go completely. And you just watch his family, Jake Sully's family, grow up a little bit. It lets go completely the idea of that they're on some adventure. The first movie is nothing but danger. It's a marine. It starts out with the dangers. This marine who's broken from the waist down. His brother dies in action on an alien planet. That's where the movie starts. Um, yeah, Avatar's really neat. Navi. Giant blue people. Ultimately, um, first off, I should say in the beginning, spoilers. Every episode of Thanks Again Film is spoilers. I have to go over what happens in the story. Um, yeah, so. Oh, I don't have it here. Um, the plot. I'm going to read the plot. I've been, whenever I've been doing these, uh, I've been doing the essays, and I thought it would be neat to to sit and make a recording of it, of me trying to figure things out, learn, going over plot and whatnot. There's um, it's what's really interesting is that I took a step back and looked at my channel, and it looks academic. There's YouTubers and whatnot who talk about movies, and somehow they make it entertaining. And I look at those, and the videos have all sorts of cuts throughout, and they're giving history on making the movie and whatnot. I'm not doing any of that. And I look back, and some of it's academic, the whole thing. It feels almost like not a college professor or something, but it feels almost like schoolwork. In the best way. It's nerdy. It's I don't know. It's somewhere between TED Talks and Comic-Con. It's somewhere in there. What I was about to say is part of this boils down to stuff actually learned. And if I was to give a shout out, it's learning over the years, going over, what would you call it? Story structure? Learning about storycraft. There's all sorts of books and things to read. I'd give a shout out to Campbell, all those Campbell documentaries. There's the one on PBS, Hero, 1,000 Faces, that book. And that's just the chart of the hero's journey. If you study that, what else? One that's really good is Invisible Ink by Brian McDonald. Going over that, you can learn a whole lot. That it's almost cheating. At that point, you're learning how to break down what film storytelling is, not just film. You're learning how to break down how to talk. He says things that I'm sure that he's learned over the years, like whenever you give a speech to someone, you tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them, and it becomes satisfying. They accept that information a little bit better. It's little things like that that you pick up with studying all this stuff. I have a notebook somewhere where it's just how to write and examples. I forgot the exact wording, but there's a book that goes over just examples of character. If your character's like this, then they might be like this. If your character's like this, they might be like this. Um, Star Wars. One of my favorite podcasts is WTF podcast. What the Force with Mary Claire. That's a giant shout out. She really knows story. And over the years, there are a few studios where you just really start to respect their work. The animation studios. Those people will destroy a movie. They will have something that they think is fantastic and perfect. And if the right idea comes along, they will destroy years worth of work and start over to get it right. It's respectable. It really is respectable. Let's see. Avatar. That's a tangent, but let me see. Avatar, the plot. In 2154. Hold on, let me wrap my head around that. 2154. It's the year 2000 now. The 1800s. The 1900s. That's 100 years. So 150 years from now. That's the difference between, let's say 1900, they had the end of slavery, Civil War times, let's say. All the way, the difference between that and, what is it, 2026? 20 years from now. There was no TV. People were writing through letters. That was before industrial farming. A little bit of slavery. A lot of bit of slavery. No cars, no planes, no bikes, no bicycles. People had to walk. They had boats, carriages. It's interesting versus now, or at least whatever sort of Tesla is going to come out 20 years from now. That's a sci-fi film. 150 years. So, 150 years from now, Earth suffers from resources exhaustion and ecological collapse. the opposite happens. The world falls apart. The resources develop administration, the RDA, mines the valuable mineral unobtainium on Pandora, a lush habitable moon, orbiting a gas giant in the Alpha Centauri star system. Pandora, whose atmosphere is inhospitable to humans, is inhabited by the Na'vi. 10-foot tall, blue-skinned, sapient humanoids that live in harmony with nature. 10 foot tall. All of that's really important to the story. Is there anyone 10 foot tall? Basketball. Basketball, the tallest is like 7. To explore Pandora, genetically matched human scientists control Na'vi human hybrids called avatars. Paraplegic former Marine Jake Sully is recruited by the RDA to replace his deceased identical twin, who had signed up to be an operator. Avatar program head Dr. Grace Augustine considers Jake inadequate, but accepts him as an operator. It's a really interesting thing. That Jake Sully isn't supposed to be on Pandora. That was his brother's life that he's taken over. I'm trying to see if what that means. I'm going over the story again. I'm thinking Jake Sully isn't supposed to be on Pandora. This is an empathy story. And usually in storytelling, when there's somewhere in the beginning, a character might say something. There's a detail that has a little bit of foreshadowing, or it'll clue you into what the story's about. But Jake Sully is a paraplegic. Paraplegia or pararesis. I'm not playing around with it. Paraparesis is an impairment in motor and sensory function of the lower extremities. The word comes from iconic Greek half-stricken. It is usually caused by spinal cord injury or pardon me, or a congenial condition that affects the neural brain elements of the spinal canal. I have to remember not to eat anything before I start doing a podcast. Let's just kind of podcast. I might munch on potato chips or something. Snack on popcorn. Because movies. This is an empathy story, but it's an empathy story where Jake Sully has to have empathy. Jake Sully needs to empathy. So yeah, he's down in a rut. He doesn't. It's. Um. I'm not sure it's a shortcut, but it might be a shortcut to visually tell the story of Jake Sully isn't where he wants to be. Empathy, to care about others. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't think that has anything to do with anything. I think they might have written him as a paraplegic to show the contrast of the strong 10-foot tall body is someone who really wants it. While escorting the avatars of Grace and Dr. Norm Spellman, Jake's avatar is attacked by Pandoran wildlife and flees into the forest, where he is rescued by the Na'vi princess Neytiri. Suspicious of Jake, she takes him to her clan. Neytiri's mother, Moat, the clan's spiritual leader, orders her daughter to initiate Jake into their society. So, technically, she's a Disney princess, isn't she? If these movies show up on Disney Plus, so technically, Neytiri, if she's the clan leader's daughter, Neytiri's mother, Moat, a spiritual leader. No, she's clan. Her dad is leader of the clan. She's a Disney princess. That is amazing. I hope they clue in on that. Every now and then they get these specials going where they have all the Disney princesses show up and talk to each other. It would be amazing if a 10-foot tall Na'vi walked in on the side. They'd probably have her sit down somewhere. Colonel Miles Quadrant, head of RDA security force, promises Jake that the company will restore the use of his legs if he provides information about the Na'vi and their gathering place, the giant home tree, under which is a rich deposit of unobtainium. Learning of this, Grace transfers herself, Jake, and Norm to an outpost. Jake and Neytiri fall in love as Jake is initiated into the tribe, and they choose each other as mates. When Jake attempts to disable a bulldozer threatening a sacred Na'vi site, Administrator Parker Selfridge orders home tree destroyed. It's halfway through the movie. I laugh because I'm a bit tickled by the performance of Stephen Lang as Miles Quadrant. He's super amusing to me. He's military. He's a military man, and if you the performance, if you dial it up just a little bit more, it's amazing. I mean, the performance is amazing. He keeps talking like Navi. Everyone talks about it. That's where they get the Navi and on Pandora. Despite Grace's argument that destroying Home Tree would damage the biological neural network that encompasses all Pandoran life, Selfridge gives Jake and Grace 1 hour to convince the Navi to evacuate. When watching the movie, that's a giant chunk of the movie. There's a giant chunk of the movie where it's just Jake and Neytiri hanging out, and they just learn about the planet. There's all sorts of stuff to go over where he has to learn to fly a dragon. He has to learn about the plants. He has to learn a new language. He has to learn the customs to not offend the other people. He has to learn to ride horses. He has to learn I don't know if they went fishing, but they hunt. He had to learn to sleep. The one thing that not bothered me, but the one thing that the research that I wish I had done in going over Avatar was how it has real world connections. I know they're going over Native American history with this. There's all sorts of stories about how the Pilgrim Thanksgiving, basically, how the Pilgrims cheated the Native Americans out of everything. And there's supposed to be about 5 movies. So I'd really like to know where he's going with that. If there's a specific story that he's pointing at, or if he's just using his imagination to say this is still something that needs to be worked on. I mean, people don't dress like this anymore, but I don't know, it's something to look at. I know George R. R. Martin, when I was about to say when he was writing Game of Thrones, he is still writing Game of Thrones. I hope. Game of Thrones started in the 90s. He started writing it in the 90s. And I think he's on book 6. It's either 5 or 6. I've read them all. But what I was getting at is he based those books on the War of the Roses, which is an actual historic event or thing that happened. Is basically Game of Thrones. How different houses interacted with each other. Um, it shows how heartless it's such an interesting thing. You absolutely can pick sides in this story because where is it? Earth suffers from resource exhaustion and ecological collapse. That means people are over. Exhaustion, resource exhaustion. They used it all. An ecological collapse. That means the environment has failed. People are looking at an Earth where they haven't gone too far into it, but they're talking about an Earth where they've run out of road. And it suggests, will the Earth ever run out? There's pollution and all sorts of things. And look how aggressive they are. It's possible to exhaust an environment. So they're suggesting an Earth that's hanging on a thread. And even though there's entertaining movies like Mad Max, I'm not sure if that sort of future is even possible. When resources stop, the things look a little different. It's more like The Walking Dead, where people are rummaging and looking for things. It's interesting. The Earth heads to Pandora so that Earth doesn't die out. And these people, they're looking for unobtainium, something that they can't find. Unobtainium, the resource that they cannot find in attacking this planet. But if they don't, what happens? That's the end of people. So Miles Quadras has an entire planet on his shoulders. It's not just his military platoon saying, "I want that tree." He's trying to keep entire human history alive. He's trying to keep everyone afloat. but it's no good because what they're going to do is just eat up Pandora. Is what it sounds like. Jake confesses that he was a spy, and the Na'vi take him and Grace captive. Dr. Grace Augustine. Quadrish's soldiers destroy Home Tree, killing many, including Nateri's father. Now, Home Tree is important. Excuse me. So far, there's The Way of Water, and then the new movie is Ash and Fire. And in that movie, there's also some Sky Traders. But the first movie, they have Home Tree, and Nateri runs around the forest. So I was wondering if they're either, they can't possibly be Sky people if they're Sky Traders. They're probably forest people. Because they care about Home Tree. So there's forest people, there's water people, there's fire people. I thought he was gonna. What is that band? Earth, Wind, and Fire. I thought I thought that's what he was going for. Um, Home Tree is important. Home Tree is where the Na'vi go after they die. They, the Na'vi, they don't age like people. They they show some signs of withering. Like they get a little bit older, but they don't wear out. The old Na'vi run around and jump, and they look healthy. They look like athletes, even when they're old. They get signs of it's time to go back to Home Tree, which might mean a graying here or there, or I don't know, signs, Na'vi markings that suggest Home Tree is waiting. And then their time on Pandora is over, and they go lay down by Home Tree, and then they get absorbed. And after that, the tribe can still connect with Home Tree and get messages from those who've passed on. It's like a database of everyone who's ever lived on Pandora, all cycling through a giant tree. Well, that tribe anyway. And Miles Quadras wants to knock it over. He wants to knock over a living gravestone to dig for oil or whatever sort of stone is buried beneath. And Jake was a spy trying to sell them out. Quadris' soldiers destroy Home Tree, killing many, including Neytiri's father, Etukan, the clan chief. Moet frees Jake and Grace. Her mom frees Jake and the doctor, but they are detached from their avatars and imprisoned by Quadris' forces. So they dial out. They get unplugged and they wake up human. Pilot Trudy Chacon, disgusted by Quadris' brutality, airlifts Jake, Grace, and Norm to Grace's outpost. But during the escape, Grace is shot and fatally wounded. I remember that part. Jake regains the Navi's trust by connecting his mind to that of the Torque, a dragon-like creature feared and revered by the Na'vi, supported by Neytiri and the new chief, Desuri. Jake unites the clan, telling them to gather all the clans to battle the RDA. From there, it's a fight. From there, it's the end of the movie. They clash swords, and the Na'vi get their planet back. And it's a really charming movie. My understanding of this movie when thinking about this movie, what happens is that you do a slow crawl through the events, and then that points to actually what's being said, and we have one planet or tribe attacking another one to stay alive. And at the same time, they're kind of asking for help. There's the Peace Corps aspect of it, where there's Dr. Grace, who wants to learn from the Na'vi and be part of the Na'vi. And at the same time, they have to look at those are the people trying to destroy everything. That's why the character Neytiri has a kind of hatred on her. She literally hates Jake in the beginning. Also, the people that she knows in the tribe hate Jake. There's a rivalry that happens. But through the story, it's mainly Jake in the clan learning how to be a Na'vi. And then he falls in love with Neytiri. and his priorities change. His priorities are no longer about unobtainium. It's about being a Na'vi. I never personally thought about the idea of Jake turning his back on humanity. I always saw it as him moving forward because he cares about someone. So he's moving towards her. But also he isn't. I don't think he's blocking. I think if Earth showed up on Pandora and they could I don't find what they need without destroying the place, without using it all up, I don't think there'd be an Avatar movie. The other interesting thing is the Doctor. When I look at this movie, there's three characters that stand out. There's Jake and Neytiri, and I count them as one. I count them as one character in the story. There's the Colonel, and then there's the Doctor. The main story, I think, is Jake. I've written this essay already. I think is Jake learning to empathize the story has it so that the people from Earth are showing a lack of empathy on Pandora. They're harming everyone. And out of that group is one soldier who has learned to empathize. And he connects with the princess. And the princess takes him on a tour of the land and shows him how beautiful it is. And he agrees and begins to appreciate Pandora. Jake Sully begins to empathize with the Na'vi to the point where he becomes a Na'vi. And that is a type of next level empathy where if you empathize with someone to the point where you can actually walk in their shoes. And that's what Jake has done. I find Avatar really clever. Because if the story is about empathy, then Neytiri had to empathize with one of the sky people. She hates the sky people. And she had to empathize enough to care about someone destroying her planet. Literally someone who helped destroy Home Tree. And she falls in love with him. And for Jake, he had to empathize with the Na'vi. He showed up as a sky person to destroy the place, basically. And he had to empathize with the Na'vi to the point where he became a completely different alien being. He had to empathize to the point where he was no longer a human being. And it's romantic what's on the other side of it. It's a really thoughtful movie. One thing that really stands out to me, though, I think James Cameron is doing a bunch of other stuff. There's the character of Dr. Augustine. Now, Dr. Augustine, if I understand correctly, she's from Earth. She goes to Pandora and creates an avatar, an alien body. She hops in that body and walks around. Okay, then she gets injured. And she sympathizes with the natives and becomes a Na'vi. And dies. What happens in the story is her human body gets damaged. And her Na'vi body lives on. But in order to make the transition between jumping from going to sleep and jumping into the Na'vi body, they use a sleep bed. They go to the chamber and they fall asleep. And they wake up as a Na'vi. And the doctor decides to use Home Tree to do that by the end of the film. Where she's injured, lays down, and jumps from the same as usual, her human body, to the Na'vi, but using Home Tree. And after this jump, she doesn't go back. She dies. Her human body dies. And then she walks on as a new Na'vi. And Jake Sully makes the same jump. So, okay, to recap. The doctor's on Earth. She heads to Pandora. She gets injured. She's starting to die. To save her life, she uses Home Tree instead of the science bed to jump into the avatar body. And apparently there's a difference in using Home Tree. because you're adding some sort of spiritual mystical force from the planet Pandora. And that is changing her somehow. Jake makes the same trip where he gives up his old human body and decides to become a full Na'vi. Now, what's interesting about the Doctor is that while they're making this empathy journey, Jake did his journey and he stuck close to Neytiri and they fell in love. And I think his is genuine, where he genuinely cares about the Na'vi. He genuinely cares about his wife. He cares about those people. He has become one of those people. I'm not so sure about the Doctor. And that's simply because these avatars have 5 fingers. As good as science as she can do, I have a hard time believing that she couldn't adjust a digit. I don't think that she fully wanted to commit to being one of these people. I think that she's fascinated by the science of a new planet. And because of that, that places her in a different category, I think. I think story-wise, there's 2 protagonists. And that's Neytiri and Jake Sully. And they went on their journey. And then there are clones, or there's some sort of foreshadowing. The Colonel has to be the antagonist. But even that role can teach. So I think the Colonel and the Doctor are both in the same category of where they are also on Pandora and are learning to take their empathy journey. So basically it's Jake, the Doctor, and the Colonel, and all 3 of them are on this brand new planet, and we get to explore as they do and don't empathize with it. Now, as far as the Doctor goes, if you dip into the next story, she becomes pregnant, and no one knows where the kid comes from. And then the kid is born, and the kid is confused about where they come from. And personally, I think that character is the Doctor. I think something happened with her being injured and making the jump to be a Na'vi, to where she needed to be in that stasis pod for a while. And while in that stasis pod, I think she used her Na'vi body as a stasis pod and made another Na'vi. It's neat. I'm going to talk about it more with The Shape of Water. that movie confuses me a little bit. I'm not sure I got a proper reading of it. But after that, then there's the Colonel. And he's going on his own journey of where he's going through what looks like that's for the next movie. They don't cover that in this one. But yeah, I think Avatar is all about empathy. And I think part of the empathy has to do with the romance. She had to empathize with someone that she hates. And a giant relationship sprouted out from it. It's very heartwarming. But okay, that's me going over Avatar. There's an essay on YouTube, and I used the well. There's a very kind woman reading it. Um, yeah, that's one of my it's one of my favorites on the channel, the Avatar video. Okay, be well, everybody.